flexors. Oh yeah. Anybody familiar with the symbology of the hip flexors?
Moving forward in your
Moving forward.
Yeah.
In your life. Anybody else? Moving forward is true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Hmm? Let's come into our sumo squat. Warm up here. Just already feel the deepening of the hip flexors, the bend of the hip flexors, by keeping our hips heavy and our heart open. Nice, strong forearm press. So bring your mat a little bit more further, raspberry, so that you're 45 degrees with the feet. More sumo. More sumo. Beautiful, guys. And just notice if you push your hips up, like most people are, the hip flexors are not deepening into the groin, and what happens to the lower back when we really let the hips drop. And I work a lot with the position of the pubic bone, even more back and down than normal. So we're pressing the pubic bone back and down. So try that a few times, keeping the knees wide. So you don't actually have to move. So keep the bend in the knees, raspberry, keep the bend in the knees. Just isolate that part of the body, what happens when you press the hips up, and when you really push the pubic bone back and down. Just notice what happens with the rest of the body. Do a few undulations like that. Just nice and slow to begin. Okay. Awesome. So that's one way. And then the other way of working with the hip flexors is doing the undulations from side to side. So it's not this, which is like acting like the pelvis is a block. It's actually pushing one knee forward. Let's all push the right knee forward. So if it's helpful to use your hands, you can do that. So I'm rotating the pelvis. And then, so I'm deepening in one hip flexor than the other. And we really felt this when we were doing the plank toe touches, you know, and that practice where I was having you guys doing the sit-ups. So what I'm wanting to do is rock the pelvis back and forth and feel how much movement without moving the legs or the torso. Yeah, we usually like overcompensate and we'll move the whole torso, right? Just isolate the hips. This is why I said today is so deep when we get into that rocking of the pelvis. Good. Yeah, so one knee will come forward and then one knee will come back. Yeah, like that. That's it. Can you feel that stickiness in there, that tightness? It's really amazing. Whenever we need a break from the arms, we're going to come into a supported back bend with straight legs. Release the swing to the back of the heart again if it decided to ride up on you. Beautiful. Come back into our forearm press. Since we are going to do a nice warm-up lap here, why don't we go ahead and get into our Chillaxin pose. So arms stay wrapped, hugging around. See if you can keep your hips dropped here. So just notice, like you're doing raspberry, you push your hips up immediately. My hips didn't have to move to grab, you know? So how can you really isolate the parts of the body that are working and then leave the rest relaxed to get into Chillaxin? And then you'll just notice, even if you do one leg, what I love about Chillaxin pose, when people are doing it honestly, which, you know, people usually are pushing their hips up, I think the thing that I say more often than I ever thought I would ever do in my entire life is hips down, hips down, hips down, hips down, hips down. It's like amazing. I just laugh all the time. I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd be repeating that so much. But here we are. So notice that most people are like this in the body. You know, that's really locked in the lower back. And what happens when you really drop the hips? Really drop the hips. Just notice what happens. What happens in the low back? What happens through the outer part of the hip and the legs, you know? And then keeping the hips that heavy, opening up the heart. So there's this rocking and this rotating of the sternum up towards the sky in order to clasp the hands behind the back of the head. You know, so we're really going to focus on the heaviness in the hips, opening up the heart. So it's this weight in the lower body that lets us blossom in the upper body. Right? And so even when I'm just rocking from side to side, see if you can really slow it down so you're feeling that rotation in the hips. So I like to come into a freeze frame. So when I freeze frame, I'm going to start to straighten the right leg, hold my left elbow down towards the ground, and then from my toes, my right toes, all the way up through the right elbow, there's a long line of energy, so pull that right elbow towards the sky. So twist a little bit more. So you're pressing your right hip flexor towards me. There you go. Do you guys feel that? What's happening through the groin? It's so amazing. Just this very simple stretch and line of energy. Beautiful. And then we drop our hips, come on down. When we change sides, just start to feel the extension of the left leg as you push your left hip towards me. And then pull right elbow down and left elbow up. So you get that nice long line of energy. And just hold it there and feel what happens. So amazing. So this is a twist or a torque. It's actually an internal rotation that we hardly ever feel there. Okay. One more time. Straighten the right leg. See if you can find it a little faster. Even more twist. Even more twist. That's it. Really extend. Freeze frame. It's like the Chillaxin pose. It's like the swagger, but then we're trying to hold it at the edges. Nice. So just even doing this, you can really feel the strength in the hip flexors. Let's come on down and reach forward for our knees. Slide up as high as we can. And we're going to do our famous silver spoon move. So we exhale, just start out with a child's pose. So you're just diving in. Inhale, go ahead and lift. And pull the knees apart. Don't try to lift your hips up. Just pull them apart. Use your arms to pull apart, right? So your heart comes forward, head over the body. Pull apart. Nice. Exhale, go ahead and squeeze. Whenever we pull the hips apart, we call it making a wish. Inhale, lift. Pull the leg loops apart from one another. Yes. Don't try lifting up. Just pull them apart. Yeah. Really strong on the arms, too. Go ahead and exhale and squeeze. Isn't it different with this focus? Even though we've done this so many times, pull the legs apart. Pull them apart. Lift the heart. Lift the heart. That's it. So that really strong arms, and then you can see how the legs are like, ooh la la, right? And then let's rock forward with the heart. Rock forward, keep the head over the body. Even more, Julia, head over the body, head back, all the way back. So look at me. So you're like this, I want you to be like this. So rotate your elbows down towards the ground. Remember we worked on those elbows?
That makes a difference.
Yeah, rotate your elbows down. Good, that's better. Pull your shoulders down your back. That's it. Really strong and engaged. I know. Woo! Exhale, relax. So just feel what just happened in the body. If you got like a little heat wave, that's the good news. Yeah, right? How does that happen, right? The little heat wave, that's the endocrine system turning on because it just got some space and openness to spark it. So even in your swagger, see if you can pause at the edges with the freeze frame and get that extension through the hip flexor. Slowing it all down. Really nice, guys. Whew. Beautiful. Let's come back to center. Let's try it one more time. All of the poses are good for the hips. All of the poses, but particularly this sequence with the bicep curl. So inhale here at neutral. Exhale, just squeeze through your child's pose. Squeeze strongly the knees towards one another. Let your knees touch. Squeeze. Right? So we're counterbalanced, and then inhale, open, bicep curl. Right? Elbows come in, lift. Pull the legs apart. Pull the legs apart. Ooh, exhale, squeeze. Nice. Inhale, lift. Lift, squeeze. Yeah, that's it. You guys look great. Exhale, squeeze. Exhale, round in. Excuse me. Inhale, lift. Okay, see if you can balance. Come forward just a little bit. Just balance a little bit with the heart. See what happens in the pelvis because you're moving the pelvis. Watch my pelvis for a second. I know it's struggle. For hips. My pelvis is rolling down towards the ground. Okay, so pelvis is back here. And then the pelvis is pulling forward and rolling down towards the ground. Okay, so from there, try and balance. It's going to be intense. Feet are still down towards the ground, Raspberry. Yes. You're welcome to cry if you need to cry. Nice. So remember, our hands stay level with our shoulders. You know, keep rocking the pelvis forward, rocking the pelvis forward. We're going to stay in that sticky spot today. You're like, oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, Lordy. Okay, and then when the feet come together, you can really press the pelvis down. Feet come together. Yes. Feet come up and pelvis comes down. Feet come up and pelvis comes down. Feet together. Yep. Roll over that little hump. Amazing. No other pose gets into this area like this. Now, if it's too much, you can always spread the leg loops out or come into high diver. All right, now let's try flapping our wings. So we press our hands forward and then back. Dive in, press forward. So up a little bit higher so they're level, okay? Yeah. Birdie's gonna have a nosedive. Fly like that. Perfect. And then let's come ahead. Pull the feet down towards the ground. Go ahead and sink back. Land it. Just feel what happened in that area. All right? So we keep our hips heavy, heart open, head relaxed. That's our mantra. And we shimmy from side to side. Let your swagger happen for you as you push one knee down and then the other knee down. And see if you can get a little freeze frame. Feel the back of the hip as well as the front inner groin and the connection between those two in these poses. Can you guys already feel things shifting and opening? The focus, pretty amazing. So this is the advanced Chillaxin pose. Normally we're just getting people to at least mimic or try something that's that. I mean, the butterfly pose, the skydiver, opens up everything. Shoulders, belly, front of the spine, hips, legs. This is amazing. So amazing. Okay. Let's give ourselves a little break. I can feel you're like, oh no, we're going to do it again, aren't we? We are. But we're going to come into high diver. Everyone loves high diver. Reach up as high as you can on your leg loops. Leg loops. Yeah. Bicep curl up. And then pull yourself up to stand, slide in. So it helps if you have sliding pants on. Yeah, the little shorts down. Okay, so there is a sweet spot. Okay, you have to find the sweet spot. I mean, it's going to dig in. Like you get your free rolfing session on your groin here, because nothing really digs in like that, right? There's not a whole lot of incidences where we have something digging into our groin. Walk your feet to the front of the mat. Keep everything even. Go. Okay. So, feet at the front of the mat. Just take a moment to lean back, slowing it down to get into the application. I use the leg loops to kind of dig into that stickiness that's at the upper edge where the hamstring attaches to the glutes, sit bone area. So this is really good for that. Okay, it's also really good to dig into the little front line. So just feel that for a moment, and then our hands are around the swing. So you need to kind of separate from the leg loop. So around the swing, and then come to prayer, lean back. That's where you begin. A nice long line of energy. And then let us pray, it all goes well. And then we press the hands forward, and then we can open up. So even here, just when you're pushing the leg loops open, feel what's happening in the hips there. And then we can lean forward into it. So this is how you can come into your skydiver without like trying to rip your knees apart from one another. It's a much easier version, although I do prefer it at the knees myself. For other people, they're not ready for that opening. Okay? And then we're going to walk out to the sides. Make sure the leg loops go on the outer part of the hip bone. You might need to adjust that. Outer part of the hip bone. And so we're floating. So we're bringing our legs wide, and feel what muscles you need to use to lift your legs. Okay? Yeah, really good. Floating here. Okay. Little flapping of the wings. Pressing them forward. Shooting T out of the arms. T, always. And then thumbs up. Up more above. Yep. And then press forward. And then just let the heart drop, not the head. Press forward. Beautiful. Now let's bend the elbows, come into our butterfly, bend the knees, feet together, lift the knees towards the sky, even though you don't have the leg loops there, and just do a little flutter from side to side. Strong, where are your hands, right? So bring them closer to your shoulders than the waist, really good. Take a moment to breathe into what's happening. So it's stronger in the upper body than it is in the lower body, but you're still getting that nice deep groin stretch. Okay, one of my favorite things to do from this position is to drop down, one hand at a time, extend the legs wide, but they're floating, and come down into, it's like a wide straddle folded leaf. So I'm coming down onto my forearms, and in this position, you can really get, so that the shoulders are released, so it's not so intense in the upper body, but you can really get that deep stretch through the groin. So feet are lower than the hips, heavy legs. So the legs being heavy is what gets that deep stretch. Now from this position, you can also bring the bottoms of the feet together and pull the knees up, and it kind of stretches the fascia or the connective tissue of the groin up towards the knees. So we're letting those slide. So we have weight in the upper body, leg loops are sliding up, a little bit deeper into those lengtheners. Feel really good. And then we're going to inhale, pull ourselves forward. Go ahead and extend again. So we go from a wide straddle up dog. And keep the feet together if you need, but try to come into an upside down dog. It just feels really good. Inhale, pull forward for up dog. So this is a nice way to do these poses. Exhale, press back, upside down dog. Inhale, pull forward for up dog, and then land it wide center. So wide straddle, forward fold, and then we're going to press back, and again, feel the leg loops digging in a little bit for us, opening things up. So when we press back, it's more into the back of the body and the sit bones. You can inhale, pull forward, and rock onto your toes. Don't move your hands. Come back to the front of the mat. Exhale, press back. Inhale, rock forward onto your toes. Exhale, press back. So when somebody comes in with like a groin injury or something happening with their hip flexor, 100% of the time I do these exercises with them, just pulsing forward and back. Digging in there. But your own weight supporting how far you go. So even with somebody with an injury, this feels really good to them. That's what I've experienced thus far. So far, so good. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to press back. You got to keep your weight into your sit bones. Press strongly into your feet and see if you can come up. So when you come up, you're going to catch the swing overhead. Press your hips back to come up, up. Back to come up. Press your hips back. Yeah. Now you're right over your plumb line. You might feel a little lightheaded. Get a little free high there. And now what we're going to do is do a little massaging. And this isn't necessarily in the manual, but we'll probably edit it and put this in. We're going to use the leg loops and we're going to massage down. So I hold on to both leg loops. I start to lift the knees. It is clothing dependent. So if you don't have slippery stuff on, it could be a little bit hard to maneuver. But I'm like using my own body weight to get all of that stickiness in the fascia loosened up, like all of the tightness and stickiness that lives in the legs. So you're just going to lift the knees and slide in, and then lift your hips and slide back up a few times and see how that feels. I love the kind of ripping, burning, tearing sensation that happens when you do the myofascial work with the swing, but some people really don't like it. And if they don't like it, just tell them not to lift their hips so much. They can just do a little bit. I think you can rock back and forth in one spot even, right? Just a little eraser getting in there. It's kind of like the foam roller, but like way better, in my humble opinion. You can do one leg at a time and go from side to side, which is kind of neat. So get into different areas, maybe more on the inner thigh, more, yeah, exactly, make that face. Maybe more on the outer thigh. So using the leg loops to massage out both, we did this on the arms too when we were doing the lift, right? From the elbow hang to getting the leg loops on the shoulders for backpack. We were working the fascia of the biceps. I really like just kind of working into one area when you find a sticky spot. You can kind of massage back and forth. That place where the femur, the back of the femur, inserts into the hip. All of this will definitely start to have its regenerative qualities for the hip joint, bringing more blood and circulation in there to avoid kind of some of the athletic responses or having to have a hip replacement, things like that that are really popular. And of course, the legs insert into the pelvis and make that connection, and now we're opening up the energy lines, right? So that intersection where the, like, just like traffic, just think LA, right? Or Paia, where it all slows down because you get that intersection or that hub with not enough space for the energy to move. So how does that feel, everybody? What do you notice?
Really good.
Nice. I like it. Like I said, some clients will like it better than others, and you can really, there's so many ways to push and pull in the space to work the inner and outer lines, right? And then you can just feel how much better the legs can work, the muscles can work, the energy can flow with those pathways, those roadblocks release. Yeah. So just play. There's like infinite ways to play, right? With the swing and how to open this up. One leg, both legs, inner thigh, outer thigh. You can spend an entire session just doing this kind of stuff with people. Isn't it amazing?
Even doing this.
I love it. Yeah, just spinning from side to side. That looks great. Yeah. Oh yeah. Love the leg love. We could do like a gazillion other exercises and forms here with the swing. Okay, we're just going to take a little pause there, working on the hip flexors. We're going to get into the hip flexors, into the IT band and quads next. I'm actually going to jump to quads